Well, today I'm going to talk to you about the alphabet poem and how to write one. It's really my favorite poem of all the ones that we do. The alphabet poem is a really great example of a hybrid form of poetry. That means that it's a mixture of a free verse poem because it doesn't really rhyme, but it has a structure because there's a spine word that goes down the left side of the poem. In this case, it's going to be the alphabet A, B, C going down the left side. And you may want to begin writing by writing out the alphabet on the red line or the left margin of your piece of loose leaf. It's a really good idea to begin this poem in a very spontaneous, quick, spur of the moment creative thinking. Trust your imagination as you're writing it. It's a good way to get a rough draft down. Some people try not to start with any idea of a particular subject. They just sort of let it unfold in a spontaneous way. You may possibly decide, I really want to write my alphabet poem on something in particular, like baseball, if that's your passion. And you just kind of keep it more focused that way. You always, though, want to let the alphabet, each letter of the alphabet is your grounding point that you have to arrive at the end of the line. So, for example, if you are writing a poem that has maybe 6 or 7 words in the line and you want to keep going with that idea, but you got to hit B at the next line, you can indent the line a little bit and finish that thought and then get to your B. So that's an important thing to remember. When you're writing it, think about how the poem looks. Sometimes, like I said, you have to indent. And then remember that each outdented line has to be the next letter of the alphabet. And I often like it if that letter has either a larger font or it's bolded or uses a different color because it makes the alphabet really stand out. Another thing to really think about is your diction, which means your word choice. You want to pick strong, interesting words. Don't use dolch words like came and went and go and big. Use the thesaurus.com or a dictionary if you get stuck. Sometimes it's hard to find a good Q word or a Z word, and you go to the dictionary and something really cool might pop out at you, and you're like, this is going to totally work. And then don't forget your figures of speech. All right, alliteration works really well in a alphabet poem, and sometimes onomatopoeia makes it fun. So those devices of sound are really something to think about. But don't forget, you also will need to create imagery, and you could put in similes and metaphors and all the other things that we've been learning about. And another thing to keep in mind is not to make your poem completely random. It should make sense as a whole. So let's think about, as an example, this poem called The Dream, and it was by a former student named Sela Barenblum. And she began it with ambitious adventures. So she decided to go with the alliteration, bobbing to and fro like a courageous cougar, diligently waiting for the exact moment to prance and leap, frolicking in the valley of generosity, the habitat of imagination. No hate, just jolly, kind little acts thrive in this meadow of never ending optimism. Prohibited acts, such as quarreling and repetitively speaking pessimistic thoughts, are unacceptable. Vanishing visions. Where am I? Xanadu threatens to leave me. It's gone. Yet I ponder, is progress and peace really such a zany idea? Now, this poem has the perfect balance of spontaneity and creativity, and yet it holds together as a whole because it's talking about this imaginary place called Xanadu and how the ideas of optimism and good dreams really can come true if you really want to make it work. Our next poem is called Black Rose, and it's by another former student named Connor Frawley, who's probably in college by now. And he decided to make it kind of on the dark side because, again, we were writing this around Halloween. So his poem begins with Abyss of black roses bear deadly thorns. Cuts not the skin, but the soul is torn. Death meets everyone who ventures near. Fighting is useless, can only lead to tears. Ghosts swarm the path, so heed their warning, or our heart will turn to incredibly invincible ice. Jumbled spirits who did not keep away leap through the misty air. Not even a fly can survive this dark omen. Petrified and scared, people quit their journey along the path of thorns trying to reach the edge. Spiders are the only creatures that are welcome here. Unless a foolish soul comes along, vultures eye it hungrily. Why, if you come to their dark valley excited by their tale, you did not heed my warning. Goodbye. Zap. It almost reminds me of like Prince Charming trying to get through the thick rose bushes to find Sleeping Beauty. Really cool, interesting poem with great language. So remember, think about how the poem always lands on that next lily pad of the alphabet letter. And finally, remember that some of the lines will be enjambed, which means that they will flow from one line to the next, and you really want the majority of those lines to be enjambed. And some lines will be closed. That means the meaning of the line ends at the end of the line. So, an example of an enjambed line in Connor's poem would be Abyss of black thorns, roses bear deadly thorns. The meaning goes from roses to bear as flowing from one to the other.